So good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having me. As you just heard, my name is Joe Walkuski. I'm the president, or the CEO and founder of a company called Textile. And I think today is actually the 17th anniversary of our company's founding. So we've been doing this for a little bit of time. I myself have been involved in the industry for 40 minus 4, so 36 years. The 40 is I just got an invite to my 40th high school reunion. So subtracting college years, that's 36 years in the industry. So we've been around a little bit, and hopefully today I can share some insights that you can take away and apply some nuggets of info back at your own companies. The title slide here is indicative of the root of my conversation today, and that is that we believe that the rate of textile innovation is directly proportional to the rate of communication within your textile supply chain. Time after time, example after example, we've seen successful textile innovations come to fruition based on clear, concise communication with your supply chain. And conversely, and I know from personal experience, when a project fails, more than likely you can point back to at least one instance where communication broke down. And so for 17 years now, my company TechSpace has been evolving a software platform that is meant to help our customers bring innovations to the marketplace in ways that meet their performance goals as well as their compliance and quality objectives. All right, so let's go through it and see what we can take away. One of the main challenges that our industry faces is the fact that we're engaged in a multi-tiered collaboration scenario. Our supply chains are extremely fragmented. They're globally distributed and often quite agile in the way that they change. And so consequently, we're tasked with managing a significant amount of data that needs to be communicated clearly and concisely to an ever-changing scenario of supply chain partners, whereby most people in this room can put yourself in that top sphere where you're focused on managing your data internal to your own organization. But in order to effectively bring innovation through to the consumer, you need to communicate and collaborate with multiple tiers of suppliers on the left-hand side of the graphic. And as well, perhaps from a testing perspective, you're engaged with independent testing labs over on the right-hand side. And then you throw on top of that the different permutations and combinations of the way in which we do our work. For example, where's the fabric that needs to get tested? Where's the actual testing going to occur? All of these things add complexity into the process and therefore challenges us in our ability to effectively execute and deliver on our objectives. The important thing to take away from this slide is that our approach to the solution was to create a collaborative platform that encompasses a many-to-many-to-many scenario where different entities are free to collaborate and communicate in a very secure manner to bring innovation to the marketplace. Okay, I think everybody who's talked so far has mentioned the word data, right? This is a data session, and so I'm going to do my duty, all right? We believe that data is central to supply chain efficacy. And in fact, I would submit to you that data is a more important currency within supply chain today than dollars and pesos or monetary currency. Now, don't get me wrong, I mean, costing is really important and bottom line financials are certainly critical, but you can do the best job today you can in costing a product and manufacturing it efficiently to keep your costs down. But for a great many products, if you don't have the data that says you can actually ship that product with respect to performance, regulatory, compliance requirements, then all the pencil sharpening you've done on the dollar side is for naught because you don't have the data that allows you to, in fact, ship your product. So for us, data is central. And now I have a question for the audience. Who knows of a fellow by the name of William Edwards Deming? Okay, we've got a few hands. Okay, Mr. Deming is a a renowned American statistician and mathematical physicist who contributed significantly to the Industrial Revolution, particularly as it pertains to Japan. And he went over to Japan and taught the Japanese automobile industry all about quality systems and the importance of having data as a decision tool in your manufacturing processes. And the premise of his philosophy was that you need to engineer quality into your product right at the beginning, so ahead of the curve rather than being reactive, as that poll we had at the beginning intimated. And one of Deming's favorite lines was, "In God we trust, everybody else show me your data." Okay, that leads to the importance of data. And what do we do with the data? How do we use data effectively in our organizations? Well, what we've settled on is a 4-step process for success in management. So if you want to know what the keys to being successful in management are, these are them. 4 words: specify, measure, control, and manage. Okay? Now, with any good sort of mathematical equation, you know it's right when you can go from left to right and right to left, right? So 2 plus 2 equals 4. 4 minus 2 equals 2. So we know that addition works, right? Well, this works because you can't manage anything that you're not controlling. And you can't control anything that you're not measuring. And you can't measure something if you don't know what you're in fact measuring. Okay? Now, this applies to just about anything in life that you're trying to manage. Textiles, my spouse. I've used it on my teenage son, actually. And it works. We don't have time to go into that case study, but maybe another day. But it's central to being successful. And as it relates specifically to today's topic, we can go on to the next slide and begin to talk about the importance of creating foundational libraries of data that we use to promote efficient communication of this data throughout our supply chains. Material libraries are a central focus of that effort. And from a textiles perspective, it's important to not only capture material information from a fabric perspective, but it's more and more critical every day to go back into the supply chain to be focusing as well as on the yarns and the fibers that are going into your raw materials. And providing a way to centralize all that information internally to therefore give you the platform that allows you to communicate efficiently to your supply chain partners as you go through the process of innovating textiles and bringing them to the marketplace. So the first step in our 4-step success to management is specify. And so I wanted to give you examples, specific examples of how systems can assist you in clearly identifying what it is that you need to measure. So in this instance, wow, for crying out loud. Oh, maybe it's on a timer. I'm going to put this down. Okay. It is on a timer. Specify. Do it quick. Watch quick, because it's going to move. This happens to be an example of a restricted substance list. Anybody know what an RSL is? Okay, great. It's a way of evaluating chemical content in your materials, right? This happens to be derived from AAFA's RSL list. But it gives you an example of the challenge that we have of managing this type of granular information and the ways in which you're capable of organizing it such that you're able to define the test method that you're utilizing in your evaluation, the target value. In this case, it's all maximum values because we want to make sure that none of these chemicals exist in a value or in a quantity greater than that which the regulation specifies. So this is the first step, specifying. We're agreeing on the testing that we're doing. We're agreeing on the target values. And when we talk about communication, successful communication, just as any relationship between two human beings, speaking is just as important as listening. We can't just preach. We have to listen and then come to an agreement and compromise. And so we can't just, I apologize for this. We can't just promote our own view of things and say this is the way it needs to be, especially as we start considering process capabilities. So if something is testing and it's not performing well, then we need to take a look at the process that is in fact being utilized to produce that object in order to determine whether or not the process is in control and what we need to do to adjust that process to bring it back into control. So specifying what you're looking at and what your targets are is step number one. Then we get to measure. I bet you didn't know we were going here. But measure is where you're actually quantifying the performance, okay? And in this, can I just, how do I do this? There we go. Let's go to static mode. Okay, so with measuring, okay, we have now the ability to capture the data that's defining the object that we're quantifying, right? And in this case, we're simply looking at two chemicals, and
I'll just make it bigger so people can see it.
yeah, no, I think that's okay. I was just trying to be able to see the chemicals and read them. Acrylamide and acrylonitrile, right? Really important to life. But here we're able to collect the data that says we've got 0.2 GC per MS on the acrylamide, and our system, by virtue of the way we've written our algorithms, allows us to automatically compare it against the value that exists in the specification that we talked about in the previous step, and automatically determine whether we got pass or fail. So we talk about analytics and real-time feedback. This is the type of capabilities that exist as it relates to quantifying performance of the objects that you're bringing through your supply chain and understanding how they are performing relative to the specification. Okay? So now the challenge. I can't see it, so. Okay, so now we're back to this mode. All right, so the first step was specifying, the next step was testing. The capabilities that we bring to our customer base as it relates to testing covers the entire spectrum of a raw material, from its R&D stage all the way through commercialization into bulk production, making sure that the materials you're putting on your cutting table are in fact meeting the requirements that were identified at the design stage. So we're tying all this data together in a real-time manner, providing the dashboards that allow you to understand automatic pass-fail, managed by exception, and so on and so forth. One of the main objectives is to centralize your data in one location and make sure it's in a format that is easily understandable, not only by your internal organization, but by your supply chain partners. So the methodology that we use allows you to define very granularly what your requirements are, define very granularly the data that you want to capture, do that automatic comparison, and allow you to clearly communicate that to your supply chain partners through our collaborative network so that everybody stays on the same page, and you have a much higher probability at the end of the process of coming away with a product that meets your requirements rather than having to rework things when communication fails. So that, in a nutshell, is the premise upon which we base our philosophy of specify, measure, control, and manage in order to accelerate the rate at which we're able to deliver innovative materials to the marketplace. Now, one last slide I have, and I think we got out of the automatic advancement, talks about process automation. Now, the work that we do and have been doing for the last 17 years now may not seem like rocket science. It's not augmented reality or artificial intelligence. It's actually practical application of understanding today's physical work, the labor that we're doing, and how can we apply technology in a way that reduces the amount of manual work and therefore translates into a return on investment for the technology and results in a win-win scenario, not only for us, but the client and the supply chain. And so what we have here is a specific example, really just minted, I think, 3 weeks ago from a project we're working on, whereby we evaluated the manual process prior to applying our technology. And this has to do with a lab's ability to efficiently generate the final testing report that's coming out of the lab. And we calculated an efficiency gain of 300%, and I showed my work at the bottom there, whereby we were able to significantly reduce, by virtue of these X's, the amount of manual work that needed to be done within this specified process. And so I encourage everybody to look at your processes in this way and apply technology in such a manner that you can reduce the actual labor that goes into doing any process that you're tracking to ultimately result in a return on investment that makes the investment of the software and the technology a viable option. So there you have it. Textile communication is a direct influence on the ability to bring textile innovations to the marketplace. And having said that, leave you with my email. If you have any questions or follow-up information, I'd be happy to reply and look forward to answering any questions you may have now and during the panel. Thank you.